Now, American people are paying attention. There is something happening in America, and it's not a happy ending for the Democrats.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at noon on AM 1250. The Answer.
The front runner's a communist. Yep, that's where the Democrats are going into the, what's where they are going into the New Hampshire primary tomorrow. Bernie Sanders, who honeymooned in the Soviet Union and can be found on tape talking about how excited he was about Fidel Castro back in the 80s, is leading in the polls right now. And it gets funnier every day. The grown-ups who have helped the Democrats win some presidential elections can't believe what they're seeing, and they hate Donald Trump even more than they hated George W. Bush and Ronald Reagan, and that's saying something. James Carville is the guy who had a lot to do with getting Bill Clinton elected twice. He knows a disaster when he sees one.
It's just as clearly and directly as I can. The only thing between the United States and the abyss is the Democratic Party. That's it. And if we go the way of the British Labour Party, if we nominate Jeremy Corbyn, it's going to be the end of days. We're going to lose it. We're going to beat the British Labour Party. We're going to be out in some theoretical left-wing la-la land.
So what exactly are you afraid of?
I'm afraid that Donald Trump is going to get reelected, and I have to do this for 4 more years, and I don't think we can make it. I really don't. It's just the country can't continue like this, and it has to have an alternative. I know, Joe, you're not a member of the Democratic Party, but you know this as well as I do. That's it. That's the only hope for America. There's a certain part of the Democratic Party that wants us to be a cult. I'm not interested in being in a cult. I'm 75 years old. I'm just not a very culty person. Some people in this country want a revolution. They want disruption. I don't know what, they scream at people. They go and bully people. And I don't know how you win an election. I'm 78 years old, standing up screaming in a microphone about the revolution. These people are perfectly happy to beat Jeremy Corbyn. They were all campaigning for him. They were taking pictures and everything. I mean, good God, we got to do something here, people.
You think? The guy who's in second place has a husband. That's not supposed to be a problem, and the Democrats say it's not a problem, but guys like Carville, who also knows he can't say that having a first gentleman in the White House is a problem or expecting to have one, he knows it's a problem. That none of them will say it. But meanwhile, thousands of people have been lined up since yesterday for a Trump rally in Manchester, New Hampshire tonight. Here's hoping Bernie and Pete Buttigieg finish 1-2 tomorrow. Actually, it'd be better if it was a tie, like within 10 votes of each other. And we can watch the Democrats try to say with a straight face how thrilled they are with the way it's going so far after the first 2 elections. Iowa, which was a total disaster, and then have these 2 guys be the leaders coming out of New Hampshire. Meanwhile, the Democrats who are already in power are out there trying to pass a law that would make it okay for anybody to cross our borders at any time and keep felons from being deported. It's called the New Way Forward. We'll talk about that when we come back. Stick around.
If you're in HR, you're probably wearing a lot of hats. Recruiter, team builder, trainer, mediator, policymaker, and of course, paper pusher. But not anymore. Bamboo HR is the #1 HR software for small and medium businesses. It manages all your employee data easily and automates countless tasks, so you can focus on people, not paperwork. Bamboo HR frees you from spreadsheets, so you can do your real job, creating a great place to work. If the data shuffle and paperwork mountain have you ready to hang up all your hats, you're ready for Bamboo. If you handle HR records and paperwork, Bamboo HR is a dream. Let us free up your time and put your days of pushing paperwork behind you so you can focus on the people and making your company a great place to work for everyone. Try PC Magazine's top pick for HR software free today. Just go to bamboohr.com/HR. This is a limited offer, only available to radio listeners at bamboohr.com/HR. That's bamboohr.com/HR.
I am doing all the right things, drinking plenty of water, eating right, and exercising. But month after month, my constipation with belly pain, straining, and bloating keep coming back.
Irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, affects 13 million Americans. Linzess, linaclotide, is a prescription medication that treats IBS-C in adults. Linzess helps relieve belly pain and lets you have more frequent and complete bowel movements. Individual results may vary. Do not give to children less than 6, and it should not be given to children 6 to less than 18. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor and learn more at linzess.com. That's LINZESS.com. Or call 1-800-LINZESS.
Hi, this is Rhett Rasmussen of BestHotGrill.com. Just because it's cold outside, it doesn't mean you need to stop grilling, not if you've got the right grill, and that would be a Solaire infrared grill. Solaire infrared grills perform equally well in the cold of winter as in the heat of summer. Just like you feel warm from the sun when you step out of the shadows, the Solaire infrared burners heat your food directly, not the air around the food like conventional grills do. The intense heat also results in the juiciest food you will ever taste from a grill, gas, charcoal, or otherwise. To get the great taste, it's all about the heat. And Solaire Infrared from BestHotGrill.com gets hotter than anything you've ever experienced. Try it yourself with the Solaire Demo Program. Solaire is truly the last grill you'll ever buy. Learn more about these amazing USA-made grills at BestHotGrill.com. That's BestHotGrill.com, BestHotGrill.com.
What is it costing you in vet bills for that convenience of just pulling open a bag of
formulated, extruded, processed cereal bits that cost a ton of money anyways?
How do you feed your dog to derive not only energy, but a good coat, bright eyes, and a great attitude?
Come to Dinovite for help.
DINOVITE.com.
I found his raw meat diet on Dinovite.com with just the raw meat and the eggs and the Dinovite and the Super Omega on top of it.
Try Super Omega Fish Oil.
Buy 2, get 1 free.
Ground beef, white rice, eggs, including the shells, and the Dinovite supplement, and then a Lico Chop.
Try Lico Chops. Buy 2, get 1 free.
It just balances out his body and his mind and his spirit.
Adding Dinovite to their diet has every single dog in my kennel looking better than they have ever looked.
Their skin is so much better now that they're on the raw diet. I don't even give them the kibble anymore.
DINOVITE.com.
This is the John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250 and FM 92.5. The Answer.
Last week, I think it was Thursday night, I happened to be watching Tucker Carlson on Fox News, and I saw him talking about one of the scariest things I've heard about in a long time. It's, of course, something to do with the Democrats passing what they hope to be is a new law that would, among other things, just allow immigrants to come in across the border unchecked. No such thing as illegal immigrants. People who were deported being brought back at the taxpayers' expense. It's total insanity. So I wanted to talk to somebody about it, and I came across Ira Mehlman, someone who knows about this stuff. He's the media director for the Federation for American Immigration Reform, and he joins us now. Ira, thanks for being here.
Thanks very much. It's I guess when it comes to insanity, I'm the guy to talk to.
Well, we'll see. I saw Tucker Carlson talking about what's called the New Way Forward Act last week, and I mean I couldn't believe what he said was in the law. So, what is the New Way Forward Act, and why should we all be a little bit afraid of what it would do? At least a little bit, maybe a lot.
Well, the New Way Forward Act is a bill that was concocted by, what Nancy Pelosi called the Squad, only it's expanded a bit to 44 members of the House. And basically, as you described in the introduction, it would eliminate just about every law pertaining to immigration. We would not be able to enforce our immigration laws if this bill were to become law. Now, it's important to point out that 44 members, even of the Democratic caucus, is a small portion, and that they are really not expected expecting that this is going to pass in this session of Congress. What we have seen is that they're willing to play the long game. Ideas that would have been ludicrous or considered ludicrous just a few years ago have now become mainstream, such as big city and big state police departments not turning over criminal aliens to ICE for removal, other things like that. So they're looking at this not just as something that they're thinking about for this year, but long term. They would like to eliminate any sort of immigration enforcement. You know, they're part of the Abolish ICE coalition. They simply do not believe that the United States has any right to keep anybody out of this country.
Yeah, and even though it may be the long game, these are 44 people who are in the House of Representatives right now. They've been elected. Someone actually cast a vote for these idiots. That's what's scary. I mean, so when you talk about the long plan, who would have thought that a guy who honeymooned in the Soviet Union and was a big fan of Fidel Castro would be the leader headed for the Democratic nomination? So what's in the long plan is stuff that we should pay attention to, isn't it?
Absolutely, and this is how it gets started. You introduce the idea, it kind of gets shelved a few times, but you keep at it. One thing you have to give these folks is that they are persistent. They will keep at it until they finally win over, or wear down any kind of resistance. That's what they're going for here. Just a few years ago, you had leading Democrats like Chuck Schumer standing up talking about how we need to have the toughest immigration enforcement and the border enforcement. He may have been lying about it then, but he certainly felt the need to talk about it and tell the American public that's what he believed. Now you look at where some of the leadership in Congress is. They are 180 degrees opposite from what they were preaching just a few years ago. So this fits the pattern that, this is where they want to take the country. They don't expect to get there tomorrow, but, give it 5 or 10 years, and we may be talking about this seriously.
Yeah, Barack Obama was opposed to gay marriage until he wasn't. And so these guys, I mean, for him to, like, for a guy like Schumer to switch the way he feels about this that quickly, you have to wonder about how genuine any of their opinions are. And it's all based on what they think is going to get them elected this time around. But what do you suppose makes someone like Schumer think? I mean, he hasn't been come out in favor of this thing yet, but he's completely, as you said, just 180-degree switch. What makes them think that this is good policy and going to get them elected now?
Well, which is why the Democratic leadership probably is not going to bring this up. But, look, I mean, if you look at the way the election is playing out, you mentioned that Bernie Sanders is now the leading contender for the Democratic nomination. It is the far left fringe of the Democratic Party that controls the nominating process, and that, they have to be appeased. And this is something that they desperately want. Having open borders is a core plank of the far left's political agenda, and they keep pushing for it. And look, they are wise enough to understand that this is not going to happen tomorrow, as I said, but they're pushing the Democratic Party in that direction. Slowly the media catches on, and you're going to hear all kinds of sob stories about people who are being removed from the United States just because they committed a crime here or something like that, and being separated from their families, as though law enforcement doesn't separate families of criminals all the time. But anyway, that is the way they go about it. They throw these ideas out there. They don't go anywhere initially, but, it starts to build a constituency. You start to get sympathetic media, and before you know it, you are dealing with an issue that really is kind of front burner. And then you're a bad person if you're opposed to it. You're a bigot. You're a racist, xenophobe. Yeah, all the synonyms for I disagree. Yeah, right. So the plan is supposed to, quote, end the criminalization of immigration. So that's just a different way of saying open the borders to everybody, isn't it? It is. If there is no penalty for violating the law, then you don't have a law. Right. And that's exactly what they want. They don't want border enforcement. They've been fighting tooth and nail against the border wall. They have been fighting against any kind of detention for people who come across the border illegally. It is clear that their objective is no immigration enforcement at all. You've got sanctuary policies where you have states and local governments that hide criminal aliens from the federal government so they can't be removed. these, that's what they want. They want to expand this nationally. And look, I mean, if you look at the proliferation of sanctuary jurisdictions just within the past few years, it does show that there is momentum for that.
Yeah, and it's scary, again, to think of these people roaming the halls of Congress, and this is what they're proposing, and they go out and they tell people that this is the kind of stuff they're in favor of, and the people say, oh, yeah, I kind of like that. Let me vote for you. I mean, these people would be laughed out of the country 10 years ago, maybe 5.
Yeah, and look, I mean, the leadership of the Democratic Party right now, I think Nancy Pelosi, whatever else you want to say about her, she's not stupid. She understands that the reason she is Speaker today is not because AOC was elected to Congress, but because they flipped about 30 purple districts in the last election, and this isn't going to fly in those kinds of swing districts.
Right.
So it is, something that they're getting pulled in two different directions. You have the leadership there in the House that's getting pulled in one direction by the AOC wing of the party that tends to get a lot of the media attention because they're so outrageous, and then she's being pulled in the other direction by these swing district members of Congress who are saying, look, you're going to kill me in my home district if you push this ahead. So I wouldn't want to be in her shoes right now, but, this is what she has to deal with.
We're talking to Ira Mehlman. He's the media director for the Federation for American Immigration Reform. We're talking about something called the New Way Forward Act. And you mentioned ICE, Ira, a minute ago. So how would this law that they're proposing affect ICE's? And they're all, I think, I won't say all, but virtually all of them are in favor of just eliminating ICE. So how would the law affect ICE's ability to do its job?
Well, it basically would tie their hands. They're saying that even people who have committed criminal offenses would be off limits for ICE. I guess the ICE agents, if ICE continued to exist, would be sort of the modern equivalent of the Maytag repairman. They'd be sitting around with nothing to do because pretty much everybody who violates immigration law would be off limits to them. So I don't know how it would play out in the long term, but they've made it very clear that most of these 44 people who are behind this bill are also behind abolishing ICE altogether.
And it would end the mandatory detention of aggravated felons. Now, what kind of detention are we talking about here? Where and for what?
Well, if you've committed a crime in this country and ICE gets a hold of you, you're likely the kind of person that they're going to hold. They have, I think, about 35,000 detention beds. We've got 12, 13 million people in the country illegally, so there's only a very limited number of people that they can detain before they are actually removed from the country, and they tend to prioritize people who might to go out and commit other crimes. So even under this law, even those folks would be exempt from detention. ICE would have to turn them out on the streets while the judges were issuing the final deportation orders. So they would disappear. I mean, we know they're not showing up for a hearing if they know they're going to be deported. They would be turned out on the street, and a judge could issue an order in absentia, but then you have to go out and find the guy and remove him.
So they would block law enforcement from even working with ICE.
Yeah, and sanctuary jurisdictions already do that. There are more than 500 jurisdictions around the country that already don't cooperate with ICE. This would mandate it nationally at the federal level. So essentially, we would have no cooperation between local law enforcement and ICE removal agents any place in the country if this bill were to become law.
Now, the congressman who introduced this bill, he said it would end the pipeline from incarceration to deportation. What did he mean by that?
Well, that is the pipeline. You can't deport somebody if you don't have custody of them. You're not going to have custody of them if you turn them out onto the street. So detention is absolutely the way that we get people out of the country. We hold them in detention. The judge issues a deportation order, and then you remove them from the country. If you turn them out onto the street, as I said, and then a judge issues a deportation order, this guy is gone. He's gone to, he's off with the four winds. You got to go find him and track him down to remove him from the country, and that's not a very easy thing to do in a country of this size.
And who thinks that exempting drug traffickers from deportation is a good idea?
Well, apparently the authors of this bill do. I don't know many Americans who think that way. I don't think there are many Americans who think we ought to have criminal aliens roaming around this country. But as we've talked about before, there is this push from the extreme left to basically do away with immigration laws, and they don't care who it is that is coming into the United States. They just feel that it is in their political interest to have open immigration, and they will defend it at any price.
And it's supposed to give due process to all immigrants, including illegal ones, I guess. To how much due process are immigrants, illegal or otherwise, entitled now?
Well, you have an opportunity to make your case before an immigration judge. There's even opportunities to appeal. In our view, there's too many layers of appeals that are available, which clogs up the system. But it's not like we simply find you on the street and then take you and deport you. There is a legal process in place that allows you to make your case for why you should be allowed to remain here in the United States. But once a judge has issued a deportation order, it should be executed just like any other judicial sentence, and you should be removed from the country.
Now, I just thought of this now. I've never really asked anybody, and maybe this is an unfair question for you, Ira Mehlman, the media director for Federation for American Immigration Reform. What is the process for deporting someone? A guy gets out of prison, and I guess he's served his time, and now it's time to leave the country. What, do they drive him to the border and just dump him off?
Well, it depends where they're sending him to. You know, if it is a Mexican national, sometimes they just take them to the border. Sometimes they put these people on a flight and take them into the central part of Mexico, so it's further away from the border. But you have people that we deport from all over the world. So most cases, it is putting them on an airplane and sending them back to the country they came from. So
they're not driven. Let's say they're getting deported from Texas. They could be just driven to the border and just booted out of the car and say, don't come back?
Yeah, I mean, that happens occasionally, but for the most part, that they are taken to the interior of the country because that makes it much more difficult to simply turn around and come back the next night. And, of course, if you're dealing with somebody who's not a Mexican national, you can't send them to Mexico. You got to send them back to the countries that they come from.
Yeah. Now, that brings me to another issue that I can't believe. That from what I understand, this law, the New Way Forward Act, would actually pay for deported people to fly back into the United States to see if they can overcome their deportation.
Seems only fair, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that by their logic, that does seem like the fair thing to do. We sent them out of the country. We should all have to pay for them to come back and get another bite at the apple. This is indicative of the thinking. This is indicative of where this radical fringe wants to take the country. They're very clear about what they want to do. They know that they're not going to achieve their ends immediately, but it is a process, and they're building towards it.
And again, these are not people who are out there demonstrating and saying that they would really like to draft a law like this or petitioning people who are in power to do this. These are 44 people who are already have the power to introduce a bill like this and get it passed someday.
That's correct. These are members of Congress, and I guess this explains why the approval rating for Congress is as low as it is.
Wow. Hey, Ira, I appreciate you being on. I'm out of time. The Federation for American Immigration Reform. I got like 30 seconds left here. I got a hard break. Where can people find you guys?
At fairus.org. That's FAIRUS.org, fairus.org.
Hey, well, keep up the good work. Thanks for being on the show. Hope to have you on again.
Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. That's Ira Mehlman. He is the media director for the Federation for American Immigration Reform. That's one of the craziest things, not just crazy, scariest things I've heard in a long time. When we come back, we're going to talk about another stupid law that's being promoted by the Democrats. It's called PRO, and it's about unions, and it's about forcing you to be in a union, or if you own a business, forcing you to have a union or have a unionized workers. We'll talk about that stupidity when we come back. Stay there.
With SRN News, I'm John Scott. President Trump is proposing a $4.8 trillion budget plan. It includes previously rejected spending cuts while leaving Social Security and Medicare benefits untouched. The Justice Department says 4 Chinese military hackers have been charged with breaking into the computer networks of the Equifax Credit Reporting Agency and stealing the personal information of tens of millions of Americans. 2 police officers were wounded and a gunman was killed this morning in an exchange of gunfire at a Walmart store in Forest City in eastern Arkansas. Both officers are expected to fully recover. Stocks are closing higher on Wall Street, led by gains in technology companies and retailers. Microsoft and Amazon rose. The Dow was up 174 points today. The Nasdaq ahead 107, and the S&P gained 24. This is SRN News.
If your family depends on your income and something happened to you, what would happen to them? You need life insurance, and SelectQuote can help you get it at a price you can afford.
SelectQuote found Jacob, 40, who's in excellent health, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month.
Not in perfect health? Don't worry.
SelectQuote found Tanya, 40, who has type 2 diabetes, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $32 a month.
We shop companies like Protective, Prudential, American General, and others to find you the company with the best rates. Give your family the security they need at a price you can afford.
For your free quote, call 1-800-880-7474. That's 1-800-880-7474. Or go to SelectQuote.com. That's 1-800-880-7474.
SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
She's listening all the time and getting smarter every day. When you want the conservative perspective on today's most pressing issues, Alexa has the answer. You just have to point her in the right direction by saying, Alexa, enable the Answer Pittsburgh skill. Now say, Alexa, play the Answer Pittsburgh to get your favorite conservative talk station without lifting a finger. Look, Ma, no hands. So, Alexa, what's your favorite station?
That's easy. AM 1250, The Answer.
I'm Kelsey Wiggins, a public school teacher in Iowa whose students have benefited from an America's Farmers Grow Rural Education Grant. By April 1st, I encourage farmers to nominate a local public school district to receive a $15,000 STEM grant by visiting americasfarmers.com.
When you've got water, fire, or smoke damage, there's no debate. You have to vote yellow. Call Service Master of Greater Pittsburgh. Our team is ready to help 24 hours a day.
Demand the yellow van. Call Service Master.
This election year, you can vote red or you can vote blue, but yellow is always the right choice. Demand the yellow van when you have water damage and call Service Master of Greater Pittsburgh.
Demand the yellow van. Call Service Master.
While Pittsburgh's financial situation has made positive strides, the Allegheny Institute for Public Policy says there remain substantial concerns about the city's economic and financial structure. Outstanding debt indeed is down, but pension funding problems remain. Learn more about this topic and others at AlleghenyInstitute.org. This year celebrating its 25th year of challenging conventional public policy wisdom that's neither conventional nor wise. AlleghenyInstitute.org.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey. Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
AM 1250 and FM 92.5. The Answer. WPGP Pittsburgh. A division of Salem Media Group. Listen on the Answer mobile app, smart speakers, TuneIn, iHeart, or radio.com. Stuck in traffic? We've got the answer.
Outbound 28 seeing some delays from Route 8 to the Highland Park Bridge. Inbound also approaching that bridge. Outbound on the Parkway East, that's our biggest jam up though. Boulevard of the Allies out to Edgewood Swissvale. Inbound also heavy, making your way to the Squirrel Hill Tunnel. Parkway West delays inbound Green Tree to the Ford Pit Tunnel. Outbound, that's a slow ride, Banksville Road to Carnegie. That's a look at traffic. I'm Jenny Robinson.
AM 1250, The Answer. Weather.
Clouds with occasional drizzle tonight. Steadier rain just south of the city with a low of 33. Drizzle on Tuesday. Shower and spots in the morning. Otherwise, more clouds and sunshine. High 43. Becoming partly cloudy Tuesday evening with a low of 27. Turning out cloudy on Wednesday with a little snow, sleet, and rain in the afternoon. High 37. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm Holly Holdren.
This is the John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250. The Answer.
Well, I belonged to two different unions in my lifetime, one of them for more than 30 years, and I'm glad I did. But working in union shops, I also saw a lot of really, really stupid things that went on, counterproductive stupidity, by the way, and unions seem to have done a pretty good job of putting themselves out of business. The Democrats want to change that with something called the PRO Act, a federal law. We'll talk about that with Carrie Lukas. She's the president, actually, of the Independent Women's Forum. She joins us now. Carrie, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me on.
So what exactly is the PRO Act?
You know, it's one of the classic pieces of legislation that is, it sounds so nice. It's supposed to be, you'll hear proponents talk all about it as if it's this big boon to workers. But what it really is it's an attempt to force more people into union jobs and then crack down on all of the gig work that is so important to so many Americans. I'm sure you've heard about, and your listeners are aware of what's gone on in California, where they've really put a clamp on the idea of independent contracting, which has caused such disruption. But what they're trying to do now on the federal level, the Democrats' bill would take what's happened in California and force it on everybody throughout the country. Basically, make it so you aren't allowed to. You can't be an Uber driver. You can't work part time or on your own schedule. They want to push people back to being 9 to 5 workers. And I just don't think that's what most Americans want.
But why do Democrats feel the need for more union workers, and why do they feel the need to force people into thinking that they want to be in a union or need to be in one?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. So yeah, this is mostly about union rights. The official name of this piece of legislation is called Protecting the Right to Organize Act. And of course, we all know that the right to organize is already very well protected under current law. But what this bill would do, one of the things it would do is basically undermine all the states out there that have said, okay, we can have unions, but you shouldn't have to. If you don't want to be in a union, you shouldn't be required to pay into a union that you don't want to be a part of. These are called right-to-work laws, and and I believe it's 17 states around the country have these that protect people from having to join unions. This would basically outlaw that. So all the teachers who are in states that have unionized teacher unions, they would be required, all of a sudden a part of their paycheck would be going to the union instead of into their own pockets. This is, and I think that there's a lot of reasons for this, and one of which is that the unions have always been a very important constituent in supporting progressive politics. So I think part of this is just a plain old power grab.
Yeah, and so some federal government busybodies believe that it's okay to force me to pay union dues to a union to which I don't belong?
Exactly, and that actually you think might work contrary to your interests. You think a lot of people out there who are frustrated by what unions negotiate for people, because obviously there's this idea that unions are always pushing for better pay and better worker conditions. But sometimes they're preventing, making it harder for bosses to get rid of employees that should be gotten rid of, or they're fighting against things like having the ability to receive a pay increase for merit instead of seniority. There's a lot of young workers out there who say, you know what? I don't think that people that these, somebody who's been there a really long time but isn't doing a very good job, I don't think that they should necessarily make more than me just because they've sat in that chair for longer than I have or sat in that position. There's a lot of things that unions do that people don't agree with. And I think it's very basic that people shouldn't be forced to join an organization that they don't agree with, just because because somebody thinks they should. That should be a very easy thing. But here we are. This is part of the Democrats' agenda. And I really think it's funny because Republicans are often tarred with this cartoonish idea that Republicans long for the days of yesteryear and we all want to go back to the 1950s or something. But that's really what this bill, the PRO Act, is very much a longing for a bygone era. They want to have everyone returning to working from 9 to 5 shifts, showing up at a factory, working for an employer for decades on end, and getting a certain compensation package. But we know, I think most of us out here know that that's really, times have changed. There's a lot of people out there who, for many different reasons, don't want to have that traditional relationship with an employer, and they're fine with it. They don't want to. They want to set their own hours. They want to work on their own schedule. They want to be able to keep their autonomy. It's not for everybody. Obviously, there's some people who do wish to have a traditional employer job. But, I don't know that this is, we should maintain this freedom. This isn't something the government should be dictating for us, but that's exactly the way that they're pushing.
That's what the Democrats like to do. I was in the union, 2 different unions, and I was in AFTRA, Radio TV Workers Union, for over 30 years, and I liked it. It did a lot of good things for me. It got me a really good severance package when I left the station after being there for 20-some years. So to me, it seemed, I think that the idea of a union is a good one. The idea that workers get together and negotiate as a group and get better working conditions and better pay and all that. But is it just a concept that's been abused and beaten to death, and there's no, it seemed like they put themselves out of business. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I actually think that if you look at the history of why there's such a lower rate of unionization now than there was in years ago, part of it is because a lot of what unions used to fight for, the federal government has now dictated that everybody has to have. You no longer need a union to come in and try to get you health care coverage because, the government has said that essentially all major employers have to provide health care coverage for their employees. So there's a lot of reasons why I think that some of the unions are no longer as needed. We also have, you think about it right now in this, the fabulous jobs economy we have in the United States, you have people have their choice of jobs. There's a million jobs that are open and just need a worker to fill them. So I do think that this is one of the reasons why we see this upward pressure on things like benefit packages. Employers are having to provide more to their workers to attract and retain workers. Otherwise, they're going to leave for a better deal. So I think that certainly unions made a lot of sense, back in a different era. But they don't as much today. And it's funny because I think that, of course, there are some people out there who are working kind of the side hustle gigs as their full-time hustle and wish they had better protection. But might long for a real, the security of a more traditional employer relationship. But they should be warned. This is when Democrats come in and say, we're going to accept these rules and the employers are going to have to pay you this much and you're going to have to get these benefits and paid leave, paid vacation time, health care. A lot of them are going to say, gosh, I can no longer afford to employ this many people or to engage this many people. That is exactly what we've seen happening in California. It's really, it's terrible, but it's been a silver lining to this terrible thing that's happened in that state, is that it should provide a warning for the rest of the country. My gosh, you look at all these people, including, it's kind of funny, there's been some kind of left-leaning journalists, who are making their living writing on a contract basis.
Yep.
They're finding they're out of work now.
So how does that work in California? I mean, if I'm a writer and I get paid per article, per commentary, per column, whatever it is, there's now a limit on and say I have a pretty good gig, as they call it, going, where I can write 10 columns a week and I can get paid, or 10 columns a month, and I can get paid $200 a column, and I'm now making $2,000 a month writing from my home. I can't do that anymore in California, right?
Yeah, pretty much. They've set a cap. I believe the cap is that you can have no more than 35, kind of for a journalist or for a writer, something like no more than 35 entries. So all of a sudden, if you were somebody who was providing kind of day-to-day content but doing a lot of separate pieces, all of a sudden you're capped at a certain amount, and then you can't contribute anymore. But, the thing is that there's a lot of companies that are now saying, we're just not going to. It's too complicated, and I can appreciate this. I'm running the Independent Women's Forum. We have a lot of contributors. We do pay some people just per their contribution. If it got too complicated, I can totally imagine that you don't want to deal with the legal headaches and the kind of compliance situation. You're just going to say, forget it. I can't offer this type of work for people. And it's interesting. Obviously, as a women's organization, we are particularly interested on how this impacts women. And we know there's so many women out there for whom a job and the ability to continue working, especially if you're home with small kids, it's not just about the paycheck. It's not just about benefits. It's also keeping that foot in the door, having a source of income that's independent, having something so that when you decide, when your kids are back in school full time, that makes it easier to transition back into the workplace. These are these jobs aren't just money. They're often just something. They have a whole lot of other benefits that come along with them, and it's just really ironic, I think, that the Democrats who have focused so much on getting people to lean in, don't give up your careers. Well, now they're going to say to women, sorry, you either have to make a choice. You can either go back to work full time. They want you have to make a choice. Stay home, don't do anything, or get back to show up at an office, put on Dolly Parton 9 to 5. You can't
put the kids in a daycare center.
Exactly. They want everybody to follow that script. There's millions and millions of women out there for whom they want to create their own script. They don't want to have to do it how everybody else tells them to do it.
We're talking to Carrie Lukas. She's president of the Independent Women's Forum, talking about the PRO Act, a federal law being pushed by the Democrats. Carrie, this sounds, just from what you described there, as a classic example of the government coming to help and making things so much worse.
Exactly. Be warned, the government is coming. And it really should. I hope that there's the good thing is that a lot of folks out there, a lot of people who I think are skeptical of kind of this conservatism and free markets, they worry about it. I'm thinking of millennials, people who are students, people who are new immigrants, suburban women, those groups that are kind of skeptical sometimes of conservatism. Might say to themselves, like, what is it progressives are trying to do here? And they realize that this is really going to strangle economic opportunity for people who don't fit into a traditional mold of wanting to be a full-time worker. That can be people. The disabled community has also really suffered in California. People who have to work in non-traditional ways and can't, are trying to work from home. They've been very hard hit by the regulations in California. But again, working moms, students, immigrants trying to put more than one job together, more than one source of income. These are the people that are being hurt by this. And, they're considered Democrat. They are very solidly Democratic supporters usually, but maybe they're going to start rethinking their policy preferences when they see the impact and how, the direction that they're going, which is really not progressive at all. It's very regressive and trying to, kill diversity and kill that kind of individualism that they supposedly really value.
Well, it's also interesting that the people who are so in love with the programs, that the federal programs that are now in place and that have done a good job of putting the unions out of business. They're now wondering why unions are out of business, and they're trying to put them back into business by forcing it through stupid laws. It's insanity.
Exactly. And obviously, another reason why the rate of unionism has declined is there's a lot of industries that really suffered because they simply couldn't afford the union contracts. You think about things like the automotive industry and how hard it became for them to compete with others because they had this enormous labor costs. Really, when you look at now, today, most unionized workers are actually government workers. And that's, I feel like, rather troubling, because really the reason that is because the government is the only one who can afford to pay kind of gold-plated benefits, and because they're just passing the bills on to taxpayers, and they can shove those, you look at some of the state pension problems we have. That's largely because the unions were negotiating with, the people on the other side of the negotiating table weren't bosses. They were fellow collaborators. These are, if you think about a place like Illinois that's had such a pension crisis because of the pay structure that's worked out with their union workers, their state pension workers. This was people who were happy to say, oh, yeah, let's add some more benefits. Sure, you want more retirement and health care benefits? Sure, why not? And suddenly you have these massive obligations. That's something that at least can tolerate for a while on the government side because they just couldn't push the bills down. Private sector, a company like that goes out of business, and that's largely what's happened and why unionism has dried up so much in the United States.
Well, Carrie, I'm out of time. I appreciate you being here. I could tell you some horror stories about what unions did and the chaos and stupidity that ensued because of unions. But I'm out of time. I appreciate you being here. Thanks.
Great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Okay, that's Carrie Lukas, president of the Independent Women's Forum, and we'll be right back.
Because it's the land of the union and was made in the USA. Show us a good idea. There'll be
Are you hiring? Do you know where to post your job to find the best candidates? Posting your job in one place isn't enough to find quality candidates. If you want to find the perfect hire, you need to post your job on all the top job sites. And now you can. With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post your job to 100 plus job sites, including social media networks like Facebook and Twitter, all with a single click. Find candidates in any city or industry nationwide. Just post once and watch your qualified candidates roll in to ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface. No juggling emails or calls to your office. Quickly screen candidates, rate them, and hire the right person fast. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by over 400,000 businesses. And right now, listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/America. That's ZipRecruiter.com/America. One more time. To try it for free, go to ZipRecruiter.com/America.
They blow into town with the wind, rain, and hail. And out-of-town storm chasers going door to door, often posing as a local company offering a quick fix to desperate homeowners. If you've had damage to your roof, windows, siding, or gutters and downspouts, you may be eligible to get them replaced or repaired free of charge. Just be careful who you call. Visit WindowsRUsPittsburgh.com for a free inspection from one of their highly trained appraisers. With over 50 years in home remodeling, Windows R Us is the area's premier exterior replacement company for roofs, siding, gutters and downspouts, doors, and of course windows. If damage isn't your issue and you just want something new, you'll love their no-pressure approach, no hidden fees, and one of the fastest turnaround times in the industry. A company who will never skip town when it comes to honoring their warranty. Visit WindowsRUsPittsburgh.com. Mention STAG for an additional 10% off. Windows R Us, proud sponsor of the Jerk of the Week, heard every Friday on the John Steigerwald Show. WindowsRUsPittsburgh.com.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's. So thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry's starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover. All for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter 3388 at checkout. That's harrys.com, code 3388. Enjoy.
I'm Andy Solomon. T-Mobile has launched the country's first and only nationwide 5G network covering more than 5,000 cities and towns all across the country. Here's Senior Vice President of Network Engineering and Development, Mark McDermott.
This launch immediately catapults T-Mobile into a position as the country's biggest 5G network, covering more than 1 million square miles beyond the big cities to the small towns, and that's just the start.
And now available are 2 new 5G superphones that can access nationwide 5G. The exclusive OnePlus 7T Pro 5G McLaren and the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus 5G.
And we'll be able to supercharge the 5G network with more speed and capacity if the pending merger with Sprint closes.
This holiday season, get a great deal on a 5G phone at T-Mobile. For more information, visit T-Mobile.com.
The John Steigerwald Show, AM 1250, The Answer.
Quick sports notes here. We had a guest on here a while ago talking about putting a football stadium for Pitt out in Oakland. Well, he has now put up, there's a couple of billboards out there. If you're out in the Oakland area, you'll see them now. Going to be up for a while, saying to build a new stadium here for Pitt. We're going to try to have him on the show again. The other thing is, this is the day when you're supposed to get all weepy about the fact that pitchers and catchers reported today. And I admit, there was a time when I thought that was a great thing. It was a sign that winter was about to be over and spring was on its way or almost here and baseball was in the air and blah, blah, blah. Well, the Pirates are opening spring training, and there's nothing to be excited about. As a matter of fact, according to Baseball Reference, when the Pirates were in the midst of, here it is. No, they did a survey to find out the excitement level for teams in the major leagues, and they ranked the teams in accordance to the amount of excitement for the team as pitchers and catchers are reporting. The Pirates, they finished last. And the level of excitement, 0. Nice going, buccos. Talk to you tomorrow.
The John Steigerwald Show is a production of AM 1250, The Answer, and Salem Media Group.
Do you or your business have financial problems? Are you overwhelmed with debt? Then call me, attorney Dennis Spire, at 412-471-7675. My legal practice concentrates on bankruptcy law, debtor rights, and tax matters. I have over 30 years' experience as a former United States Department of Justice bankruptcy attorney and lawyer in private practice. I have represented thousands of cases faced with financial problems and lawsuits. Reorganize and get a fresh start. Call 412-471-7675 or visit my website at DennisSpira.com.
This is Jay Hagerman of Abernathy & Hagerman. Upon your passing, you wouldn't want a judge to decide who raises your children or how your estate gets divided. It is important to review your estate planning documents to ensure they protect what matters most. At Abernathy & Hagerman, we will work with you to establish an estate plan